Why in Switzerland?
All right. Start summary also, so we can get a summary. All right. Cool. I'm excited about this. Dr. Regina, thank you for joining us, and Emily. So thank you. So Dr. Regina, let's start by introducing yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure, gladly. Well, thank you for having me. And so I was originally trained as an eye surgeon back in my home country, Lithuania. I did 1 year stint in India, so I'm good with Indian accents. That's it. No, I'm serious, so I can decipher what they say.
Mhm.
And for 20 years, I lived in the United States, and the last maybe 4 or 5 years, after I involved myself with keto and fasting, I discovered so-called neuronutrient or amino acid therapy, which Julia Ross is a pioneer of.
Mhm.
And I first tried it myself, and when I saw miraculous results, and I was always like in a natural therapist, so I just, without hesitation, left my boring corporate job and immersed myself in training. And so that's been like 4 years ago when I did it, and
Wow.
got trained and seeing clients all over the world. But you know, I don't have an office. I work online, so I am limited by probably the therapy not being very widely known. That's
Right.
one thing. But then the languages I speak. So I speak English, Russian, Lithuanian, and learning French, which is a very beautiful language. But it's a process.
Wow, fantastic. That's quite a bit. So now let's delve in there. You called it neuro, tell us.
Nutrient, like neuro,
Okay,
brain,
okay.
right? And nutrient,
Uh-huh.
nutrients. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, can you explain a little more about this?
Sure,
Because this is
sure.
a new
So,
term for me.
so yes. So the idea is that brain biochemistry really rules not only our mood, but also our behavior and cravings.
Yes, of course.
100%.
Yeah.
We
So
notice this by practice. Yes.
if you agree that biochemistry really is like crucial, critical force in determining our behavior, then the rest is really easy to explain because everybody knows of serotonin, right?
Yes, yes,
Yes.
of course.
And serotonin is actually the main neurotransmitter. It's like almost like umbrella neurotransmitter. And most people who come to me, they're deficient in serotonin. And there are many reasons, but actually one of the reasons is linked to that sugar, low fat, I would say revolution,
Mhm,
that was initiated
I'll
in the
say
United States 50
conspiracy.
years ago.
mhm.
What's that?
I said I'll say conspiracy. You say revolution.
Well,
I'll say conspiracy.
you can call it disaster too. Whatever
Yes,
name you attach
disaster.
to.
Yes.
The reason being, like most people in keto world know, or carnivore world, they do know that 50 years ago, right, with all this new guidances, right, people stopped eating fat, which they replaced by carbs. But guess what
Yes.
fat is attached to?
What?
What
For the
what does
brain. For
fat
the
comes
brain.
with a ribeye steak,
Oh,
right?
yeah, ribeye steak.
Like with
Yes.
meat. So
Yes.
as a result, and this is something I learned from Julia Ross, as a result, protein consumption also dropped like by 1/3.
Of course. Mm-hmm.
And guess what happens? Since serotonin is made of essential amino acids, tryptophan,
Mm-hmm.
which is like the least represented in our food intake, no wonder depression, anxiety, insomnia, cravings, pandemic or whatever you want to call it, like huge wave, tsunami, followed.
Yes.
In parallel, this is like total conspiracy. In parallel, so 50 years ago or so, nobody prescribed Prozac because it did not exist. And then when they put it on the market, there was no traction because psychiatrists use actually tryptophan with a good result.
Really?
Right.
No.
But then since there was no traction, guess what happened? This is again, I'm just telling you the story as I learned it from Julia Ross.
Of
It's
course.
just like a detective story. So then comes from Japan to United States a batch of tainted tryptophan.
Mhm.
30 people die, 1-3. And guess what FDA does? Bans all tryptophan from all manufacturers all
Oh,
together for, I don't
wow.
know, 10, 15, 20, I don't even remember, but let's say like 15 years or so.
Right.
And of course, Prozac takes off.
Of
But
course.
the story, of course, never got to, investigate it and just was, went like this. And
What I'm
yeah,
hearing is this wide use of SSRIs and Prozac specifically that just became like the common cold. Here you have an issue, take a Prozac, take a Prozac, take a Prozac. That tryptophan, an essential amino acid, that's an essential, right? It's tryptophan.
yes, it is.
Yes,
It
it's
is
essential, right?
essential, and I would say
Yeah.
it's a main because serotonin is really the main umbrella neurotransmitter.
Mhm.
Of course. But I mean, we hear SSRI, serotonin. What does that stand for?
Something uptake. Yeah, serotonin.
Doctor knows.
Selective serotonin uptake
Selective, yes, yes.
inhibitor. So,
Okay.
so the mechanism of action is those medicines, antidepressants, they do not create more serotonin per se, but they just prevent its degradation.
Yeah.
So, and that's why they do
Oh,
not work for many people, because let's say you're a woman who tries to lose weight, who diets, who eats that, big salad with the 3 strips of chicken breast for lunch. I'm exaggerating, but you get the picture, right? So who is like notoriously low on protein intake, and you both can relate, right? Because this is like,
yes.
you can see it day in and day out.
Mhm.
So she's low on tryptophan, right? And there comes SSRI. Let's say she develops symptoms. She's truly like depressed, right? But will it help if she already has very low serotonin to begin with?
Yeah. No, of course not, because where is she getting the materials for it, right? Which is
Exactly. So,
tryptophan, right?
so it can maybe pump somebody up
Yeah.
who has certain amount of serotonin, but to a certain degree. So people who are really like depleted, low, but that's why SSRIs do not work for them.
That makes
Wow.
sense. And this is why we could even say that some people on SSRI will go into this. I heard they get very numb.
Oh
Yes.
yeah.
Mhm.
That's how
And
I was. I felt
Yeah.
numb. I was on
numb. Oh, you
Prozac.
were on it? Oh,
Oh
okay.
yeah, many
Yeah.
times. And I felt numb. And well, and it killed my libido,
Right.
which was
Exactly. Yeah.
very low already. I didn't even barely have one. And so it is so interesting to think that this was really a biochemistry deficiency, and that this was happening the same time that this whole thing that we're sort of aware of about how fat got degraded, but really the protein and the amino acids got degraded at that same time, and it's all about the same time in history that it fell apart. And
Right.
then now, but
Totally.
yeah,
Totally.
yeah.
Totally. Mhm.
So, Dr. Regina, almost because a lot of people blame ourselves saying, oh, I have low libido because my mind's telling me that, I don't want to have sex anymore. But what you're saying is that it's really a biochemical issue. That's what brings
I,
our mind to do the things
I
it
can,
wants to do.
well, I cannot make blanket statements, but I'm
Yes, of
just
course.
saying that very often low serotonin issue is a nutritional issue.
Yes.
Boom.
Yes, that's absolutely, I love that because, I've noticed myself, as I was getting older, that I've noticed that my drive has gone away. My, of course, libido has gone away also. All of those kind of synced up, and there steadily was getting worse until, of course, I changed my diet to a carnivore diet. And then all of these things started reversing slowly. Now, the thing is that I have a question is how much does the role in play, like, is there a little more than just the amino acids that's in play on this? Like, is it also, because we thought at first it was the fats for the carnivore diet, but now I'm starting to question how much of a role is the amino acids and the fats?
There are a few factors. So thanks to Julia Ross, she came up with a very nice questionnaire, which I'm welcoming you to fill out for yourself to check your symptoms.
Yes.
So we do work with 4 neurotransmitters and with the sugar balance, because blood balance of sugar is similar to brain sugar balance, right? So those ups and downs, which the keto carnivore world people know, it affects our mood, obviously. But there are 4 other neurotransmitters that also influence the cravings. So basically when you go on a keto diet, and if your issue is only, up and down your sugar, then you just fix it with the low sugar keto carnivore diet and you're fine. But not everybody's fine. And when I looked at Virta's stats, at 2 years, they have compliance rate of 75%, right? And these are people who are very sick, who want to reverse their diabetes, obesity, and so on. So it's just like not like some vanity, not serious people, right?
Right.
So then I say, those 25 people, they're mind people. They're people with sugar addiction.
Mm-hmm.
So if keto carnivore works for, let's say, 75% approximately, for 25%, it does not work. No, but actually I would say carnivore still would work for a higher percentage of people, because you have that, not maybe huge, but a big chunk of amino acids, because it's a high protein diet.
Of
Yes.
course.
So you're getting amino acid therapy. It's just not selective, but you're still getting
Right.
it. So that's how carnivore is, in my view, is much better than keto alone, because keto, which stems from all this, epilepsy world, right? They try to limit protein. And again, let's go back to that woman who is already protein deficient. She's not doing very well, just because sugar or carbs were covering up those symptoms. So carbs, like such as sugar or alcohol, they're universal drugs. So basically they excite all neurotransmitters, and that's how they work as, masking tape or Band-Aid solution. So that's why when you remove the carbs, when you go on keto, or when you fast, then you experience your brain, I call it like pure or like naked the biochemistry, because you remove that masking tape of the carbs. Does it make sense?
Absolutely.
And then it becomes sort of like a canary in a coal mine. So if you do have deficiencies, if your brain is not well balanced, keto fasting kind of like brings it forward. And then these people say, oh, I cannot fast. Or these people say, oh, no, I cannot do keto. It's not sustainable. Yeah. So those would be the people who are my candidates, for therapy.
Actually, this kind of plays a very important role. First of all, I see as digestion as an issue. So we've had some carnivores that just cannot seem to eat enough. And they don't seem to digest the proteins properly to create the amino acids. But I've noticed that when folks get to a certain point of nourishment, that's why I like to call it, when their amino acids are there, they're able to do keto, they're able to do carnivore, and they're able to do fasting. Exactly. Which is interesting. But before that, when they're depleted, it doesn't seem like they can do any of that.
So totally. And that's a mechanism, because just like with amino acids, with food, they're replenishing their amino acids in their brains. Yeah.
So so you're saying there's a sense where our body sense the levels of amino acids it has in there, and kind of makes it where if you wanted to fast but your amino acids are low, your body's not going to let you do that. Is that sounding kind of where we're getting at, do you think?
You can call it this way. I'm just saying that your brain biochemistry state is such, maybe unstable or unbalanced.
Yeah.
And it's just like, remember COVID 3 years ago. What I know, in American society, a lot of people, like they're walking like, on the edge of a sword. And when a stress came, it completely threw them off, right? So they totally did not have that cushion of mental resilience.
Yes.
This is how I see it. So same thing would happen probably in fasting. You basically you're walking on a thin ice. You do not have that protection. That's how I see it. Once you rebuild your brain biochemistry back, you become mentally resilient, and then you can do like many things you want.
You have buffer, and
exactly.
Yeah, we kind of
call it a buffer.
Yeah, we teach it in the gang. Like we do kind of an ultra nourishment. We do priming on carnivore, and so we're getting lots of fats and proteins. And so and I feel it. We just feel like they have this baseline. We want to bring that baseline up, and we don't fast anybody until we brought that baseline up.
Totally correct approach. Yeah, absolutely.
And we've noticed that it does work, but we always kept on asking ourselves, why does this work? And then because I kept on asking myself, why does carnivore work? Why does keto? Why does this approach that we're doing work? And then that's where, because at first we were like, oh, it's the fats, it's the fats. And then we're like, it's the protein, it's the protein. But all those really didn't answer the question that we wanted. When we found out about amino acids, we were like, wait a minute. So now here's the question. Does amino acids care whether it's a vegetable source amino acids that we get it from or an animal source? Does it really matter?
You know, well, they all kind of like the ones that you would buy, they made, you know, sort of artificially. I believe that, you know, bacteria grow them yeast, right? So
Is that how it's made?
You know, I would still go with the animal source, of course, because it's the most complete and it's most, you know, biocompatible, really, you know.
But I mean, like the actual, you know how you can buy it free form.
The pack.
Yeah. So when you buy it free form and it's a certain amino like tryptophan, like you just said, which tryptophan, I'm sure they derive it from because they want to make it cheap. So the way to make it cheap is to extract it from a I guess vegetable source.
No, it's not how it's done. It's done through like yeast is growing it. This is what I know. You know, yeah. And with tryptophan, actually, again, I was taught by Julia Ross that you have to be very careful with quality. So there are good brands such as Doctor's Best is good brand. Now is okay. Then there's a Litke, which is a little bit more expensive. So those are good brands because I had people with cheaper brands having allergic reaction.
Really?
It's the other things that it's made with. It's the binders. It's things like that.
I don't know, because actually you can buy tryptophan like in the free form in powder. You know, there's a brand sells them on Amazon, just like pure powder. There's no fillers, no nothing.
Yes.
And you can do that as well. But you have to try and see if you're sensitive or less sensitive. So with tryptophan, we have that issues that some people do have allergic reactions.
Yep.
And
what was the brand that you said that was a little bit more expensive that you liked?
Litke, Lidtke. So it kind of sounds like German. It's American brand.
Okay.
Lidtke. Okay. Yeah. Thank you for that.
Well, no problem. I actually, by the way, I wanted to tell you where to get it cheaper, a little bit cheaper. I subscribed to Fullscript or became a practitioner. It's not difficult.
It's called Fullscript.
Fullscript. You never heard of them?
No.
Oh, just love it.
We don't do supplements at all. We
usually don't.
So Fullscript.
This is new.
No. So Fullscript is a supplement like online pharmacy.
Like a pharmacy?
Yeah, their headquarters in Canada, but they have division in America. So I believe that you would have to send them some sort of certificate that you are not a common person, but you know, they're pretty easy to work with. And that's what I did when I was in America. And then you get 35% discount because I'm an expensive coach. I just pass that discount on my clients. And so I don't have to do all those IRS things, worry about it. But it's very convenient because they have good customer service. They have really good variety of supplements, cheaper, more expensive. And since Litke is more expensive brand, you know, this way is more palatable.
Yes. Yes. And you kind of have to kind of experiment with some different brands, see if you react to some, see if you don't react to some, but plenty of people will be fine on a Now or something like that.
That's what I want to say. So Now is, again, I learned from Julia Ross. It was established 1968 out of, you know, Chicago area, and it's a family-owned business. So they produce it yourself, manufacture and sell themselves. So that's why they can keep the prices kind of like lower. But you can go to pure encapsulations a little bit higher. There's so many other brands. So totally up to you.
I have a question. It's a little off topic. I know Raymond has lots more questions, but I want to ask you because I know that you are a fasting expert, and you and I, we knew each other through fasting groups on Facebook and everything. That's how we got to know each other. And what effect do these essential amino acids or these free in a fasted state, how does that work? And do you
use it break
them on
a fast? Do you use them on a fast? Yes.
No, I mean, like you're just talking about like 500 milligram, 1 gram. It's really minuscule, and those are
Yes.
like fasting group purists. Oh, you know, you take 1 gram of amino acid. I mean, this is all bullshit. I mean, like, sorry.
That's
It
I'm
doesn't
exactly
just
what
like,
stop
we're doing.
you know,
autophagy,
all those
all the things that
questions,
are.
right? It's just like, does this break my fast? Like 1 milligram of something, you know? I'm like, come on, you know. So, but you know, I would use it as kind of like training wheels, right? They talk about training wheels all the time.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
again, let's say you're not 100% back to your good brain biochemistry. So, and we know that with fast, you know, your biochemistry can go, you know, different ways. So you can totally use amino acids to support yourself. And
Nice.
another thing is, if you fast, like me, I don't sleep well. So I'm like,
Yes,
you
yes,
know.
yes. You have like extra energy. Yeah. So
No,
you can
no,
actually
no,
bring
but
that.
you need like extra like melatonin, extra GABA, extra whatever
Yes.
So
relaxes
To sleep a
these
you.
little
these
bit better.
components will sort of help with a lot of people will get insomnia during fasting. What have you
Right.
found? What do you use with clients if they're dealing with insomnia and fasting? Do you use some supplements with that?
I use it for myself because I'm not like fasting trained coach yet. I wanted to do it with Baker, but then he closed the shop before I
Oh,
got
yeah,
pregnant.
yeah.
But anyhow, but you know, I do it myself, so I would, you know, increase on melatonin. And I started taking melatonin regularly, by the way, since, you know, spring of 2020, when they started adding to all anti-COVID protocols because of its immune regulating, boosting properties. So it's really good supplement.
Mhm.
And I do not have that fear. Oh, you know, you do too much melatonin, then you suppress your own production. I'm like, how can you do that if you don't have enough tryptophan? How you all of a sudden, you know, this will happen? It does not make any sense. And actually, I've been to a keto conference in Switzerland last year, and we had a psychiatrist from Germany. So he totally like blew us out of water because he was telling that in psychiatry they use like massive doses of melatonin, and
Mhm.
there is like a study where you use like 600 milligrams, and you know, but usual dose is 1, 2, 3, 5, 10. You know, this sounds like a lot. This is documented in clinical study. And he said his own experience was even 1,300. So those are huge amounts, but they use it in psychiatry settings. So why not? You know, if you
Okay.
really need to sleep, you sleep. Because I'm very sleep sensitive. So if I'm sleep deprived, you know, everybody going to know that. So I'd rather take my melatonin and people do not wake me up. So especially when I'm traveling, because you never know. Somebody, you know, wakes up early, like next door, and you know, slams the door, like, you know, if you're in a hotel, let's say.
Yeah. Now, if the theory is right, so like if you're melatonin deprived, is there a way to bring it up through amino acids instead?
Yeah,
For
of
example, you
course.
mentioned GABA.
No, so here how it goes. It goes by chain. So tryptophan turns into serotonin, and then
Uh-huh.
serotonin turns into melatonin in the evening and at night. It's very simple.
Oh, it's
So
that simple. Okay.
when you up your tryptophan, you're going to enhance your melatonin production as well. Yeah.
Exactly. That's why you cannot be depressed without being sleepless. It's always like
Oh, so interesting. Okay, wait. Okay, so now the key word, which I've never understood this, the 5-HTP. That's been, I mean, I've noticed it's been amazing, but is that a form of tryptophan or how's that work?
so it's an intermediate product. So tryptophan turns into 5-hydroxytryptophan. It's just like a next
Oh, next level.
compound
Okay.
and chain, right?
Uh-huh,
And then it
uh-huh.
goes towards serotonin. So remember about those times when tryptophan was out, right?
Yeah, out. Mhm.
So 5-HTP came into the play, and
Yes.
right now we have like abundance of 5-HTP, and tryptophan is still less available and it's more expensive. So
I
five
see.
H, yeah. So, but 5-HTP, I cannot say that it always works as good because reason being that 5-HTP has a tendency in some people increase cortisol.
Oh,
Interesting.
So we don't know, again, we don't know much why, but again, I noticed that in my practice too. So let's say if somebody has high blood pressure, of course you would be careful, right? But again, I had 2 instances. One young lady, she was like 39. She came to me. She just got over some stressful situation. She got allergy to tryptophan, so I put her on 5-HTP. She was doing fine, but then the next stress came, like 2, 3 months down the road, and she immediately felt that, you know, her cortisol was like this. So we had to cancel 5-HTP and put her back on tryptophan, which gave her allergy. But you know, she was calmer. And then I had another lady who was in her 60s. And so she also had a cortisol raise, but how we knew it, because she wore a continuous glucose monitor. So her
Yes.
sugars went up.
Yeah.
Mm.
There was indirect indicator that her cortisol went up. It doesn't happen with everybody, but I'm just letting you know because, you know, it's quite common. It's easy to get over the counter, but you need to know that such a, you know, side effect might happen.
Well, it's very interesting that you mentioned cortisol. So with cortisol, you're saying that if you took the high dose, the higher up tryptophan, cortisol.
No, 5-HTP for some reason raises cortisol.
right?
Yeah.
Which is weird because the 5-HTP is supposed to have a calming effect, not like a stress effect, right?
It does have a calming effect, but you know, maybe there are some like biochemical reactions because same with tryptophan, because if you're missing other cofactors,
Yes.
it can turn into some byproducts that give you, like, for example, headache, and that happens to some people. So
right.
So again, it's like not for everybody every time.
These don't work by itself. You mentioned cofactors. Cofactors, apparently, if you're low on certain cofactors, I guess vitamin C, vitamin A, whatever, it doesn't work as well, or can it actually work without issuing the cofactors?
So most important cofactors, B vitamins,
yes,
and
vitamins.
In particular B6 and zinc. There is a so-called genetic condition which is called pyroluria, and some psychiatrists know about it because it's a genetic predisposition to lower B6 and zinc. And in people with mental illness or with history of, you know, drug use or alcohol issues, it usually runs higher. So I have it myself. And it's just, again, it's just like genetic predisposition to lower zinc and B6. So I'm kind of like, it's not like end of the world. It's just like, how to say, it's just like a thing you have. So you just have to take for the rest of your life B6 supplement and zinc.
Nothing
And some of the symptoms can be that, you know, you're socially shy, or you don't have dreams, or you don't recall dreams with a lower, you know, lower B6. But it also involves, that condition is also involved in our digestion. So these people also can have lower stomach acid, which is, again, starts the whole chain of reaction of not being able to assimilate your protein. So I had one client who was pyroluria, but she was like not interested in taking all the supplementation. So she was eating grass-fed, like, you know, best quality steaks, but, you know, it's almost like, you know, making a piss.
It's not digesting.
Very expensive with all the supplements, but but she was not assimilating. So it happens too.
Okay, well, that's a great question. Then, is there certain aminos that can help us raise our stomach acid and actually be capable of digesting?
This are very known. You probably know. You don't know betaine and you know,
betaine hydrochloride.
HCl. Supplements and enzymes. So those are kind of like a staple of almost like, I think, any keto carnivore coach.
Well, that part is, but we're talking about the base where the body can build it itself. We're talking about it actually enhances the enzyme itself.
Well, body actually kind of like adjusts to it, you know. So if you don't use it, you lose it.
Yes.
Oh, right, true.
So if somebody was in a, you know, over a period of time was a vegetarian, so myself, I didn't eat red meat, so I believe all those fairy tales of red meat, you know, harm, and was making fun of bacon eaters.
Yes, it takes a while. And I think what Raymond is thinking about, and we think about this too, is yes, of course, we have this when people are going through their transition to carnivore, some people will have enzymes will help, and the HCl supplementation will help. And, you know, we're thinking like, with these, essentials amino acids, like, is this going to be really helping people in the transition as well? And will it help them to upregulate the enzymes and the digestion? And, you know, is this going to be something that could play a crucial role in folks transitioning?
You know, I really don't have that knowledge. And I'm like, when I work with my clients, I try not to overload them with supplements. So
Yeah.
I
Yes.
just use like targeted amino acids. So let's say you lower
Targeted. Yes,
I like that.
serotonin, right?
Targeted.
So I'm giving you like tryptophan. But again, usually it's other neurotransmitters too. It's never like, one neurotransmitter on its own. But,
Yes.
here's how I view it. So I view selected amino acid therapy as an emergency aid. Like you go to
Nice.
the ER,
Okay.
right?
Yes.
So you want somebody like ramp them up quickly, right? And establishing your food supply of amino acids, this is like a long-term goal, and it goes in parallel. So here you would add all your digestive aids, and but this is something that a person should do like long term, because amino acids, again, it depends on where what the baseline of a person. So somebody could come to me and they've been depressed for, I don't know, since they were 14, right? But somebody can come to me and they just like, oh, it just like happened a year or two ago. Well, obviously these people will recover faster than the ones who were depressed all their life. No,
Yes.
but there's still hope. So so their brain biochemistry still can revive, recover. Most likely these people who are depressed for the for the most of their lives, they will require supplementation again until they die. But tryptophan and SSRIs, they're two different things. So people understand the difference and they don't mind taking aminos.
Oh, absolutely. Any day. I don't have any, I mean, I'm experimenting with it. I'm a very healthy person. I've been carnivore for 3 years. And so, it's not like I'm coming from a bad spot anymore at all.
Exactly.
But I've been, just trying to experiment with supplement, and I have had major increases in sleep, mood, energy, all of the things. It's kind of like leveled up my carnivore experience, my carnivore game. And so it's just been a fascinating journey just to experience that and try these out and see how they affect me.
Yeah, I was actually
that's
surprised
awesome.
by that.
That's awesome. I'm really glad. I'm really glad to hear. Of course.
Yeah, I was surprised about that when I started experimenting to this too, because I'm a 6-year carnivore, and I did 5 years with no supplementation. On the 6th year, I started deciding to play with amino acids because I was like, well, that's the baseline of carnivore. And yeah, I noticed exactly what Emily's been saying. So
that's so awesome. That's so awesome.
Yeah, so I actually at first I started targeting all the amino acids that I think they make a powder that has like all 23 in it. So I did that at first, and now I'm focusing mainly on the essential amino acids. But this is like a broad range shotgun kind of thing, right? So not really a targeted approach. So I like your approach a lot to see if there's certain places that I could actually logically target. And you're saying from your training with Julia Ross, you actually practice in that targeted approach depending on your symptoms that you're having. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. But I'm not saying that your approach does not work, because we have sometimes situations like we had during the training a lady who worked with people in nursing homes. So obviously it would be almost like nearly impossible to do that selective amino acid approach. So they just would give same, different mix, but similar approach. So over a period of 1 year, let's say that person would, recover or feel better. I don't know how she measured it, but so yeah, so I guess, for me, I always prefer personalized kind of medicine, but of course it requires more effort. But then what you're lacking, and then you're taking exactly what it is. The magical thing with aminos, and some people call them amazing aminos, is the dose. So first you have to determine your baseline, and then you have to see, like, let's say you're missing in this, that, and this, and then you select the dose which you need, because here's also the trick. So let's say you deficient a lot, but you're super sensitive to supplements. That happens sometimes, not often. So then we start with a smaller dose. And usually like within 3-4 weeks, people develop like tolerance, and then we can increase the dose. But again, it doesn't happen often, just sometimes. But again, we have to be aware of that. And it really, the trick is really to pick the correct dose, because let's say somebody went to the store and bought the tryptophan from a shelf. So chances are that they would not meet their required dose, because if you're too low, you have like no effect. They say, oh, I tried amino, so
Right.
nothing happened, right?
They didn't get the right dose. Yeah.
Right. If you take too much, you can get a side effect.
Yes, of course.
Absolutely.
And then here's another trick. Aminos work only for 4 hours.
Right.
Right.
Yes. Talk to us more about that. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to hear
So
that.
you have to take them at least every 4 hourly. Or if I have a very deficient client and I usually want them to recover quickly, and they actually want the same thing. So I tell them, please take your aminos every 3 hourly, so your next dose comes on the tail of a previous dose.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Okay,
you're
well,
doing
what?
it 3, like an overlap.
Right.
Exactly.
Overlap, yeah.
Okay.
Exactly.
But what about food? How do you calculate
Oh,
that?
yeah, I'll get to that. So I'm just telling them that I would like to get them like a drip,
Yes.
so like,
Yes.
of
Drip, yes,
aminos,
yes.
or send them to a fantasy lab where I give them prescription. They come to the lab, they put the concoction, extended release. It doesn't exist. It's just like in my dream, right? But it would be nice. Take one for the day,
Yes.
another one for the night. Would be lovely, right? So the story with aminos is that they, if you take them on empty stomach, the idea is that go mostly in the brain. I don't know if it's true, but that's what I was taught.
Mm-hmm.
Possibly, who would do all this pharmaceutical studies? Because the pharmaceutical companies would not be interested,
They would
right?
not want that, no.
So we're doing it all by like observation.
Yes.
So we were taught that, the best to take them on empty stomach and half an hour before or earlier and 2 hours after the meal. Or if you wanted to do a workaround, you can totally take them as a homeopathic preparation under your tongue. So it goes straight into your brain, bypassing your stomach, especially if you have some stomach issues, or you just want to maximize that return on investment, because, it kind of hits you strong.
So you just said that in general, you do half an hour before or 2 hours after when it comes to food.
It's just a recommendation, because if a person starts doing that, they kind of like, oh, I couldn't take it. I'm like, no, I'm like, this is just a recommendation. Still take it, or take it on your tongue.
Good.
Don't be so
no, don't be
because
rigid.
then you don't
Perfectionist.
have that much time. If you're going to include food into it, and you won't be able to get it enough time, because that's what I noticed with my problem. I'm trying to take it on empty stomach, but then it's time to eat. Then I have 2 hours to wait. Eventually I run out of time to actually take it.
So you can still take it, but you can expect that, partially it will go to your muscles, but you still would get effect.
Ooh, I like that idea.
Not a bad thing.
Exactly. But you still would get effect, which is better than nothing.
Right.
Why it's better not to skip. Another thing is, our serotonin is highest in the morning, and after 12 o'clock, like noon, it starts going down. And if you notice, probably you did, right? Let's say people who like have those, issues with overeating, right? It never happens in the morning, right? Nobody stops there themselves with the cakes and at 8 a.m. No, it happens in the evening and at night.
Yes.
So really, when serotonin is the lowest, and that's where I have a problem with the dopamine story of overeating, right? It's really not I mean, the interesting thing is that actually even dopamine is, again, in my clinical practice, I see it's also kind of like upregulated by serotonin a little bit, even though they seem to be like opposite, but they're all interrelated somehow, in a nice balanced way. So again, what I tell my patients, if you want to forget your aminos, forget them in the morning. But in the afternoon, please do not forget them. And I think that's important for your clients too. And especially, sometimes I even have with them sessions, when they finish their work, let's say like at 5 p.m., because this is when the disaster happens. So you really need to remember to take your aminos like before you come home.
Absolutely.
So you are in that, Zen state, and you do not overeat. So in the morning, you'll be fine. But at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, when you arrive home, right? Hungry, ravenous, your cravings are probably the highest. This is a time when you for surely do not want to miss your aminos.
Wow. What a great point.
That's a great point, because that's where we find most of our people having the weakest point, and including me, evening time, around 8 o'clock, 7, 8 o'clock. Yes.
So it's an indicator that you are serotonin probably dependent and your serotonin can be still optimized. My guess.
Fantastic.
Can we talk about sweet addiction, sweet palate? Like a lot of our clients and members will say, they have their meal, they've eaten their meal, and then a little bit later they just want something sweet. How have you helped people the most with that situation?
So again, I just look at all four neurotransmitters and balance of sugar. So again, it's never just like one neurotransmitter. So it's a balance of all neurotransmitters. So if somebody comes to me and they will be low on serotonin, on endorphins, on GABA and dopamine, and on also, depending on their diet, they have those sugar swings. I'm looking into optimizing all neurotransmitters, and altogether they work really well. Sugar addiction is actually the easiest to cure or to get rid of. Like sometimes it's like within a matter of a week or a few weeks, it goes away just like that. And insomnia is the hardest because there are too many factors at play. Seriously. I think if you implement or employ that targeted approach, then you know that what you're targeting, what you're dealing with. Because if you just try to give them low carb or carnivore sugar balancing diet, but they're low in serotonin and they became depressed and they want to have a drink, and that raises their serotonin. Just having, leveling their sugar balance is not going to be
not
so
quite
effective.
So you're saying there is a link with people who crave sugar for their serotonin to go up. So something about sugar helps them with serotonin going up, or alcohol?
Sugar and alcohol, those are universal drugs. So they kind of like buzz all neurotransmitters. Serotonin, endorphin, GABA, dopamine. Those are the ones that I, four main ones that I work with, and usually they're all involved.
They're all
and people take sugar for different reasons. Somebody wants to get relaxed, right? And they take alcohol for that as well, right? Somebody wants to really have that buzzing, actually, an energetic effect, and that would be dopamine. Somebody wants to have that kind of like a hug, feeling. I have somebody calling on my door. Can we just pause for a minute?
Yes, let's pause. Okay.
It's okay. Yeah, let's take.
All right. Thank you. Okay. So first of all, let's get a little bit about you, Dr. Regina. So how do you work with clients?
Online, only online. I don't, my office
How could someone contact you, for example?
So I do have a website and in two languages, Russian and English, and a person can just fill out the consultation intake form, and then I'll take them from there to what's called amino acid therapy chart, which I'm also inviting you to fill out, because I am working based on the symptoms. So there is no need for blood work, or actually to determine your neurotransmitter levels, you would need to have a spinal tap.
Oh,
yes. So I'm so grateful to Julia Ross, because she was able to correlate the symptoms with the levels of neurotransmitters. So when you do it for the first time, it's very weird. It was also very weird to me, because I'm a surgeon, right? So how do you just put numbers? But after some time, even kids figured it out, because I was working with my nephew and my sister was filling it out for him. And then, she puts like for hyperactivity, which is one of the symptoms of low serotonin, she puts 7 and he screams, "No, I'm 6 today." you do it on a scale from 0 to 10. And then
does it change day to day? Do you have other?
Of course.
Okay.
And that's the beauty of it, because we meet every week. So people could totally see the progress, because if I meet with a client and if I ask them how they're doing, I was, I sleep a little bit better, my mood is a little bit better, but then we'll go through all the symptoms and you can see the progress. And that's what we as doctors, we always want to see the progression. Where are you heading? And let's say what's lagging, because it's not a linear progress. So some symptoms go away faster, some take longer. Just like I said, sugar cravings can just vanish really quickly, but insomnia, oh my gosh, because sometimes I have people with 30 years of insomnia, it definitely is not going to disappear overnight.
Of course, of course. What is the name of your website?
StopSugarCravings.ch.
StopSugarCravings.ch. Perfect. And I'll put that in the show note. That's perfect. I'm glad you're sharing that with us. Okay, so now how about so if someone were to contact you, there's a contact form over here on that website, and everything that we need to do to contact you would be.
Actually, there is no contact form because otherwise I would be just responding emails all day long. So I cannot see somebody unless they fill out the questionnaire.
Oh, okay. So fill out the questionnaire first.
So they need to put a little bit of effort into, making the first step in order to see me. Otherwise I don't know. And very often after they fill out that first questionnaire, I send them a couple more forms. One is just like regular intake form where you pick your symptoms, and another one is related to their mental health history, because definitely I also have to screen out people with, let's say, who just like, let's say, psychiatry patients. And as much as I would love to help them, I'm not equipped.
Okay. And when you do consultation, is it like an hourly, half an hour, or hour and a half? How does that work?
I usually work in packages. So if somebody's like a train wreck, I tell them that they need a package of 20 sessions, but most people are not. So then it would be a shorter 12-session package. So I call them 6 months and 3 months, but this is just like approximation. Because again, as a practitioner, I'll prefer to stretch out therapy and support for longer.
Yes, because it takes a long time.
So as we go through those 12 sessions, the idea is not only get rid of symptoms. And again, I never say like, oh, you're going to be 100% cured. That would be nonsense. Right. But I would say, most likely you'll get rid of most symptoms. Maybe some will remain. So to be seen, right? Depending on your situation. But during the therapy process, I'm really teaching people, because it's all based on feedback system, on their feedback. I'm teaching them which aminos and which neurotransmitters issues they have. So then they learn, let's say, okay, this is my main neurotransmitter, let's say serotonin, right? So even though let's say they got rid of all the symptoms, like I'm not taking tryptophan anymore or any longer 5-HTP, right? Because I went through the same therapy myself. But we all know that stressful situations will happen. Like my 16 years old, after 3 years in Switzerland, decided to go back to the United States with his dad.
Right.
It was a very stressful summer for me. Yeah. So what I did, and I did the same, what I advise to my clients, you up on your aminos, but you already know which aminos to take, your doses. So this will remain in your toolbox forever.
Yes. So it's partly more of an education. You level them up, and then once they learn it, they can use it for life from there. That's amazing.
Exactly. Because usually it goes as such, so let's say a person comes, first meeting is always free because I'm an expensive coach. And then a person decides if they want to work with me or not, because it's not only a financial investment, it also a time investment, because initially we do meet every week until all the doses are sorted out. And then once they're in that balanced state, we do not need to tweak the doses anymore. Then we do not need to meet every week. We'll meet every 2 weeks, every 3 weeks, by agreement. Right. We, communicated, we agree. And then in that stage, they will be just like really replenishing. And at some point, those doses will become too large for them and they will have to taper.
Yes, of course.
And then you taper them off and until, you don't have them anymore. Or again, you leave them on a very small dose if it's needed, and the process is over. But after the period of 12 sessions or 20 sessions, people don't really need me anymore. They learn all they need to know about aminos. They're not that difficult. So if you start with a knowledgeable person who can diagnose you correctly and fit you with the right doses, you really, it's really not that complicated.
I love it. I love it. This is great. So yeah, if you don't mind, I would love to have all of your information that you want to share on this video, and then we'll post it up there. So Emily, any last words, that questions that you have for Dr.
Oh,
Regina?
no, I'm just thrilled. I love the parallels. It's been so fun to spend time with you. You're such just a dear in my heart. And this has been great to get into the science and to, just really understand things deeper. You are such an eloquent and clear educator. So I just appreciate everything you've done with us today.
Yeah.
Thank you, Emily. Well, to make the things easier, I'm really planning to write a book. And if my mentor wrote, she wrote like a very thick book. I have it here, The Craving Cure, and the true story, and I talk about this story on my website. I bought this book because I was drawn to it, but I was tempted.
Oh, look. Oh, so
yeah,
cute.
but I was literally tempted to return it because it's so thick. And I was like, I'm working full time. Like, it was for half a year. It was on my desk and I couldn't get to read it. And then I thought, well, even if I read it, I still do not have a working knowledge. So then I called the clinic, made an appointment, and the rest, and the rest of the story. So I went through therapy and then, decided to learn the methodology myself. But, I just think that this book is like, for practical use, is too thick. And so I want to write something that's more like a, user manual, something really shorter, that you just go, to the essence of it, and then anybody can use it. Again, it's not that complicated. You just need something like tangible. Amino acids available now for, for purchase, and they're very affordable. So why not to use it to your advantage?
I cannot wait until your book comes out. When are you started it, right? I know it's all here.
I started, but again, I am with a Russian, like a publishing house. So I started, but the moment I start writing, I start putting those stories out like in social media. And then the clients start flocking. So
then you get too busy with clients to write your book. Yes,
exactly. So right now I'll restart in early 2024. I really want to finish it because I really have a very, very experienced, very prolific publishing house. So the idea is I would do it in Russian first, and then we'll translate it to English. And and I think it will be very helpful because I myself wanted to have a book like this, which made it very, very simple.
I want it
kind of like step by step.
So do you have social media, you said? Where are you on social media? And of course, give me the links if you don't mind, so I can put it out there.
Of course. Well, I do have 2 Instagram accounts, one in English, one in Russian. They're both.
We'll stick with the English. Yes. What's the name?
They're both, sugar craving coach, but so they're out there. Thank you for asking. And my Facebook account is kind of bilingual. And I usually, when I write a post, I put, translate to like English, or, so have it. I published in 2 languages, both languages, Russian and English.
Perfect. Well, thank you for joining us. Do you have any last words you'd like to share, or with the audience and everything?
Well, I'm really happy that you guys have the interest and you have your own success stories. I think aminos, even if you do carnivore, this is something new for me to hear, because usually carnivore communities say, oh yeah, you do not need any supplements. We have no scurvy. We know that. We know the memo, right? So I'm glad you still experimented and you still benefited. So it inspires me too. And so thank you for having me. And I appreciate it very much.
Thank you for coming on. Really appreciate it. So, and thank you everyone for watching and being here. Hopefully you've gotten some knowledge, and please do reach out to Dr. Regina if you should need any more help. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.